Welcome back to another episode of Fear the Talking Heads, where I usually have a variety of guest co-hosts with me, and we like to dig into the underrated and underloved movies, as well as putting a highlight on ScareFest celebrity guests. And this October, there's quite a few good ones coming, namely a cast reunion for Jason Takes Manhattan. Without further ado, let me introduce or reintroduce Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here. Hi, Eric.
Hey, glad to be back, Barb. Thanks for having
Yes.
me.
This is the movie within the franchise that I've said for years that it's the weakest link,
hmm
but I've only seen it twice before. The first time I saw it, I was only 18 and
hmm
I was like making out with my boyfriend. So I don't even remember what happened in the movie. One of those
Priorities.
times. And then so I didn't even like touch it again for years. It just didn't come up on my radar until I think it was either last year or the year before. I bought the 8 disc series on DVD and
hmm
wanted to watch it with my granny. So we went through and I think we watched like 2 movies a night for 4 different visits. And once we got to Jason Takes Manhattan, I'm like, see, man, this is probably why I made out during it the first time. Because it was terrible. But fast forward to me watching your review of Jason
hmm
Takes Manhattan, and I went, maybe there's something here that I'm missing. Maybe I should give this another go and watch it from the perspective of some of the highlights that you mentioned, some of the positives. Those of you who don't know Eric's channel, he has this series called You Hate It, I Don't. Now, the thing that I love about this on Eric's channel is that he goes into movies that are widely known as, like I said, the weakest link in a franchise, or even a standalone flick that somebody maybe is like, it just didn't have the best budget. It
hmm
really showed in the acting.
Yeah, that's what I try to do. If I can change your opinion on it, that's the added victory. But just to give, because I always say almost every movie deserves a second watch, and sometimes as you get older, or it also depends on the type of mood you were in the first time you saw it, that can also affect how you view a movie. And if I can get you to give it a second shot, and then maybe look at it differently, like, okay, we both agree that I'm sure we're going to talk about this part in Jason Manhattan is not good. But if you can look at the other little bits and pieces that are sprinkled in that you may have missed, and then like try to focus on finding them, you'll realize it's not as bad as you remember.
Yes. Well, there's one thing that I wanted to just point out in terms of Final Girls. Rennie has a story that we're kind of learning. Oh, Rennie is afraid of water, and she's been afraid of water since she was a kid. Something obviously happened because she's having these visions of young Jason as a child, and he's trying to like pull her down into the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made me think, what other Final Girls actually had a story there? The third one, we had Chris, who
Right.
had a previous run-in with Jason. And so she's traumatized from what happened in the woods a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have Seven from Tina. She has
Mm-hmm.
telekinesis powers from her childhood, how she did something and it caused her father to pass away. We have Rennie, and we didn't have another story on a Final Girl until the reboot of 2009. Her brother's coming to find her because the mother was sick and now she can't be found. She wasn't even there for the funeral. So it's kind of like that backstory of, oh, she was this caregiver
Mm-hmm.
and obviously didn't come home when she was supposed to. I like that. And I thought, wow, 4 out of 10, 11 movies that we have more depth there to the final girl. It's not just a character.
Yeah, it's not just running through the woods screaming, for help, and then getting the strength during the last 20 minutes type of thing that we've seen
Right.
out of what would we say, 11 movies. And it's kind of neat that these girls that you've talked about, more so Chris and Rennie, their backstory does involve Jason in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Now we don't know if Rennie's situation really happened, or if she was just scared when her asshole uncle threw her in the lake. But with that story, it clicked, and she still has that trauma that she's trying to process, and now she's stuck on a boat on that big body of water that she's already terrified of, and she's got nowhere to go. You can say what you want about her as a final girl as a whole. I don't think she's one of the strongest, but when it comes to at least this part of her story, there is that little bit of sympathy for her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because she's not a bad person, and she has that trauma, and she has the two teens. Well, more so the blonde that's picking on her more. Kelly, who's just kind of along for the ride. You know what I mean? You
Hmm.
have that awful uncle. He's worse, in my opinion. I think he's almost as bad as Cruz, Bad News Cruz from the seventh one. But she's also got some sympathetic characters that aren't going to make it, like her teacher. So you have that mixture of the bad and the good, and she's stuck in the middle, and she's still dealing with this trauma no matter how it pops up in the film. So it just kind of makes her more likable, and you want to root for her more, because that's what I've always said. When you have characters that you really don't care about, you're just sitting there kind of waiting with the clicker, kind of waiting for the violence to happen. If you have these characters you kind of want to root for and you don't want them to get taken out, there's more at stake. And it might sound kind of hokey, having saying something there's more at stake in the eighth Friday the 13th movie, but there really is when you're following her from beginning to end, in my opinion.
This movie had a $5 million budget.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think in terms of that much money, it sounds like a lot. And it actually was the biggest budget of apparently all of the movies that came before it.
I think so.
So, from what I had seen online, and if it's online, it must be real, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Some people were saying, well, $5 million, they absolutely could have shot it in New York City, all of it.
That's like, watching football. You know what I mean? Oh, I would have done this or I would have done that. Well, it's not your $5 million. You
That's
don't know
right.
how to make a movie. You don't know. You don't have to deal with the producer. So it's not as easy as, oh, well, I would have done it. You know what I mean?
The fact that they shot most of this in Vancouver and called it New York, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Do you realize how many movies are implying that they're in this place, but they're actually being shot over there?
So I guarantee it's
It's
80 to 90% because it's
yes.
cheaper. It's mostly the boat ride. You know what I mean? It's mostly
Hmm.
Gilligan's Island until they shipwreck at New York City. But the thing is, I think once people found out that it was Vancouver, they just attached to that. So
Yeah.
it's like the white horse in Halloween 2. What did I say? 48, 49 seconds of a white horse. But that's the worst thing in the world. They can't get past that. They can't get past the fact that it's shot in Vancouver, aside from the Times Square part. Who cares, really? If it
Yeah.
fits in the story and it looks like New York, this was what, 89? New
Yep.
York City
89.
had the reputation of being this disgusting, vile, nasty, dirty place. I think they did a pretty good job making it look that way. People just can't get over that hurdle. If you realize how many places are not filmed in the areas that they're supposed to take place, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
doesn't affect the story at all to me. We're in part 8. All right. We've already seen Jason 2 through 4 survive stuff that he shouldn't survive. Okay. He's literally resurrected like the Frankenstein monster in part 6. He's fighting someone with telekinesis in part 7. And it's Vancouver that people can't let slide in part 8. Come on. You know what I mean?
They wanted to try something new, get him out of Crystal Lake and just put him somewhere else, like they have done with so many other movies,
Mm-hmm.
and later did with Jason X with putting him out in space, which I,
Mm-hmm.
I like that movie.
You
I
don't
think
get
they
no,
made it
no.
work.
You say it more. You say it with more pride. If you like it, you like it. It's
I
fine.
like it. I'll someday do
There.
a video on that one too,
All
because I
right.
feel like I want to defend that one.
Do it. If you like
Yeah,
Jason X, be like, I'm Barb. I like Jason X. You know what I mean? You
damn
don't gotta. You
straight.
don't. You don't gotta be. Quiet and stuff like that.
I hadn't seen anything like that done yet with Jason walking into the room.
Mm-hmm.
Dude's got a towel across his eyes so he can't see what's going on, and he thinks it's Julius, and he's just having kind of a conversation, no hard feelings, buddy, about to
Mm-hmm.
fight. And Jason grabs that because he's a zombie, he can't feel anything.
Right.
He's like that.
He grabs
Grabs
the
one of
rock
those.
and you hear it sizzle when he grabs it. Well, it's that, and it's also just the way Kane does it, because Kane has brought a ferocity to Jason, because he doesn't just shove it in the guy's chest. There's another quick shot of seeing Kane. He jerks his shoulder down, like he's forcing it down even harder, and that's just it just makes you kind of feel it, like you already feel the heat of the sauna room. Again, grabbing the rock and having it sizzle, that's just one of those wincing moments. We've all touched the stove or a hot pan when we shouldn't have yet. We've all done that. And then he just brutally just kills the guy, and all he's doing is just trying to relax after a fight. And I think that's what I really like about these. The deaths in these is they're creative. Some of them are fun. Julius is fun. I really like Kelly Who's because of how brutal it is in the dance room, the dance sequence where he just strangles her and lifts her up and then
Yeah.
tosses her like yesterday's garbage when he's done. But yeah, I think when it comes to brutal, I think the Sauna Rock is really good, and it's also really creative. Who else has done that in a horror film?
Julius was actually my favorite character
Mm-hmm.
just because, man, the guy had heart. I mean, he was like, listen, we're up on this rooftop. I don't really want to die, so I'm gonna just give this all I got. And all I kept thinking of when he was punching away, just kept punching at Jason, and Jason would kept backing up. It's like a tactic because in boxing, he's got to wear out eventually. And he sees him slowing down, and then that's when you see Jason just stop and he's not
Yeah,
backing up anymore.
yeah. I mean, there's even times when you see Julius, he's swinging and he's missing, or he hits him and then he slips because of the rooftop is wet and he's tired. I love Julius because he's just so charismatic too. You know what I mean? He's fun. When they see New York, he's squealing and happy, and he's about ready to jump up into the boat type of thing. He's so happy. But then when Jason just, Julius tells him, "Okay, take your best shot, you motherfucker." If it wasn't Kane, or if it wasn't the Jason character, the guy probably could have gone, shrugged his shoulders, like, okay, boom. But he just grabs him by, the front of the shirt and just wails on him for one hit. And again, with the fun stuff, again, it's part 8. What else do you want? We got to throw. We've already had humor. Part 6, you know what I mean, is a cartoon for a lot of that movie. We get to see the POV shot of him going down, and of course he lands in the trash can. You know what I mean? It's goofy fun, and again, we need a little bit of that with what we've seen for 7 movies.
This was definitely campy because the couple that are on the boat in the very, very beginning, when they're making out, they're just like, It just sounded like they were eating a really good meal versus making out with each other. I was like, this is so
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, sucking on a lifesaver or something like that.
It's like, what is happening right now?
This is one of the best looks of Jason. It took me a while to get used to the yellow mask, but I like it. He has to have a new one because part 7 it was broken by Tina, and he just looks like he's been at the bottom of that lake for years. He's
Yeah.
all wet and nasty. He looks like he's wearing like a wet garbage bag. You know what I mean, for his outfit, and it just helps with this disgusting feel. Does it ever look like he dries off 2 days later in New York? When he's walking down the alley or messing with the punk kids, he's still wet, and helps with the character, in my opinion, making it more scary looking, making it more unnatural.
Every time he was on screen looking all wet and gooey, I just kept thinking he must smell like so
Yeah,
nasty.
yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, he's already rotting. He died technically in '84, so it's been 4 years of that. He's been buried. He's been electrocuted, so the skin is burnt, and now he's been, hanging out with the fishes and dealing with all that nastiness and the pond scum and everything. And now that's why he fits perfectly in 1988 New York.
She
Mhm,
grabs her pen, stabs him in the
mhm.
eye, and you see this viscousy stuff come
Yeah,
out of his eyeball. I'm like, ugh.
yeah. It's fun. It's a lot of
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, I did have fun with it this time. The only thing that I felt was kind of a little off was young Jason, how sometimes they would show him as a normal kid, and then other times they would show him where he actually did have the deformities. So it's like,
I
I don't know what's going on there, but
I think the only time we see him, air quotes, as a normal looking kid is when the guy in the beginning is telling the story. I think every other time when Rennie sees him, he has the deformity. And
okay.
I don't know if it was the director or one of the writers who said it in an interview. It's because possibly, I'm sure they just kind of, they kind of fucked up when they made the movie. But like, if you want to look for some reality, I think it's because the guy who told the story in the beginning did not know that Jason had a deformity. And if Rennie saw
Okay.
him Rennie knew the story, obviously, because her uncle told him, and then, she sees him, so she knows. So it makes it sound plausible, at least.
I
You
know,
know
I
what I mean?
like that you add that in some of your reviews. You're like, hey, it
Yeah.
could be because of this. And I'm like, you
Hey,
know what? The director is probably wanting to give you a pat on the back, Eric. Like,
that's
thanks,
right.
man.
Not even I thought of that, but hey, it sounds good. Yeah.
They get
Mm,
off the big cruise boat and then they're on this like dinghy
yeah.
and they make their way then by paddling over to the dock. And some of the online things that people were saying, like, oh, sure, Jason just swims all the way there. He was hitching a ride on their boat. Like, didn't you think that too?
Well, I personally thought he swam because or he walked. We've seen him literally walk into lakes before, go all the way down, like in part 6. He's walking straight down to Tommy. And again, people are worried about, yeah, he swam the whole way. Well, if he can be resurrected from the dead, why can't he swim
You
from the
can't,
middle of the ocean into the dock of New York?
you're like, you
I mean,
can't
why are these
suspend
like
disbelief just a little bit more.
why are these certain things like, we can believe this, he's been, he's been hung, an axe to the head, a machete to the face, he's been drowned in Crystal Lake, for 2 movies for years, but the fact that he swam, nope, that's where we draw the line. I think a lot of people they pick and choose what they will allow, and that just, it takes away the enjoyment of the movie. If this is the 8th film about an now undead killer going after whatever group of teens is going into his location or whatever, and you're more concerned about the fact that he could swim, 3 or 4 miles or however far away it is. I mean, come on. Don't worry about plausibility when it comes to Jason Takes Manhattan. Mm-hmm.
When he gets up on the dock and he looks up and he sees that billboard.
Love it. Again, so much tongue-in-cheek fun.
He does that Michael Myers head tilt.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah. It's this smart, fun type of little bits. They're sprinkled out here and there in this film, and you gotta really be a sourpuss to like not have a smirk on your face when you see little things like this. With that, when he's with the punkers, you know what I mean, and they're playing the music, and that proves again, in my opinion, Jason's smart. He is just deformed, but mentally, I think he's all there because he knew he had to get after Rennie and her boyfriend. He didn't have time for these punk kids, so he just lifts the mask. He's like, guys, it's not worth it. And then
you want a piece of this.
Exactly. He's like, you don't want it. And then they run away, and I'm glad how he puts the mask down, and then he turns, and then I think it's either Kane's idea or the director's, and he just kind of stands there like, yeah, that worked. He's proud of himself. And then he goes back and chases after Rennie. You know what I mean? It's just little things like that Jason has more of a personality than people give him credit for. He's not to knock Michael Myers, who is just the shark swimming in the water. There's more personality to Jason, if you look for it.
I don't know how I missed that the boat's name was SS Lazarus.
Mm-hmm.
Lazarus, raising the dead.
Yeah, exactly. It's smarter than you think. Is there some problems? Oh yeah. There's a lot of problems in my opinion with, I'm sure we'll get to the ending. Some of the hallucinations are a little bit too much. I think they could have cut 1 or 2 of those out. But it's just a fun movie. It's just one of those you're going to put on Sunday doing laundry or whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm going to have fun with this. And that's, I think, all that they wanted when they made this movie.
Well, something that was unintentionally funny for me, how many times someone would look around and he's over here, and now he's over here, and now he's over there. And I think it's just a matter of they just cut out some parts.
That is one of the things that is a problem with this film. Yeah. And I mean, but then again, it's just like, okay, well, you know what? Now he's just got teleportation powers. You know what I mean?
It was funny.
Like it is the whole scene with Kelly Hu when she's being stalked in the dance room. She is looking around. There's no way he went from here to there without her seeing it, unless that guy can fucking run faster than the Flash. You know what I mean? And not be seen. But it is what it is. And I think by the time I'm at that part of the movie, I don't care because I'm already having fun with it.
The one dude when he's trying to go up the mast and you think he's going to make it. It's almost like the female tropes of why are you running up the stairs when you should be running out the front door? It felt like that. Like, why are you going up there? There's nowhere to go.
In the women's defense, that if they go upstairs, they can get out a window. This dude just goes up to the top, and where's he going to go? If Jason climbs up next after you, which he does, there's nowhere to go but down, and you're like 20, 30, 40 feet in the air.
As he's walking up there, you're thinking, well, okay, he's going up there pretty fast. And all of a sudden you see Jason grabs him and throws him off of there. And I'm like, how'd you get up there, buddy?
He's like a spider monkey. You know what I mean? He gets up there in like 30 seconds. It took this poor guy 3 minutes, and then it's over with.
He's not going to walk slow, I guess, like Michael Myers. He's not taking his time.
But then again, Barb, we got to take our own advice. If we don't want to, think about how he swam, we don't have to worry about how he climbs. There are some nice characters in this movie. She's one of my favorites because she actually cared about Rennie. It's just like a sad demise. She dies in the car wreck. You know what I mean? It's just like one of those where you're like, I did not want that to happen, because you don't care about the guitar player or Wayne, the guy with the camera, or the kid pulled off the mask or whatever, because we don't really get to see them that much. But we saw this teacher from the beginning up until the last 15 minutes, and like I said, she legitimately cares about not just Rennie, but all the kids in the class, the graduating class, and you don't want her to die. So you have that little bit of attachment to her when she does die. And it's just like one of those, oh, I wish she didn't. And then how she survives longer. I think she survives longer than Charles does. That's just another like kick in the pants. I figured she wasn't going to make it, but the fact that he lasted longer than her just really ticks me off, because he's just a big scumbag in this. But what's great is he's the big scumbag. She's the loving, not parent, but she's a loving parent character, and they have that. It's like the yin and the yang, and Rennie's caught in the middle.
When it's just down to basically Sean and Rennie, and they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of running through the town and thinking they could go anywhere in New York City, and he's just hot on their trail. And if you
Mm-hmm.
notice, in the diner, he's tossing some dude to the side. In the subway, he's like pushing somebody out of his way. And he's not even trying to kill anyone else. He literally is like, look, I'm killing you guys.
Yeah, just get out of my way. I have business to attend to. And I love the diner scene, because you have the sassy waitress, putting the cigarette out in the legs. Oh, we got to get out of here. Someone's trying to kill us. Welcome to New York. And then he just busts through the freaking wall, and the cook comes out. And I don't know if you know who the cook was, Ben Kersinger,
Yeah.
who replaces Kane as Jason in Freddy versus Jason. So it's kind of a little fun nod that you see Kane toss his replacement against the wall. But yeah, Ken's always, he's there because it's Canada. He's a Canadian stunt man. He did one stunt that Kane did not do. He's the one that gets hit by the car in Jason Takes Manhattan. That's not Kane. But
Okay.
that was just like kind of a fun little nerd moment for me. The guy who replaces him gets thrown against the mirror and stuff like that. That subway scene is great when they're going from car to car. And Jason, like I said, there's some great shots of him looking through the window of the door. You know what I mean? And he's just going down through, and he shoves that poor lady out of the way, like, get the fuck out of my way. I got to get to these people. You're holding up the line type of thing. And it just works. And again, it on paper, it just sounds goofy and stupid. And it is, but it works when you actually sitting down watching, because you have the intensity, because you pretty much know Rennie's going to make it, but you don't know if Scott. I think his name is Scott. Is
Yeah.
if he does, so he can die at any time, and they're just going from point A to point B to point wherever, and it's just a fun game of cat and mouse for me, with people stuck in the middle, whether it's poor Ken the cook, or the old lady, the little old lady on the subway train, or the punk kids, or stuff like that. You get in his way when he's trying to do his job, you're gonna be a casualty.
I just thought that was so funny when he's walking down the street and he just like you mentioned earlier when he flipped his mask up and
Yeah,
he was just ticked off like I'm sick of hearing this music.
yeah.
Just picks the boombox out of the way. Like
When he was born in the 40s, he's like, you punk 80s kids, and your music nowadays, this isn't what I listened to growing up before I fell in the lake.
in the original draft, there was a bunch of things they were going to do. They wanted to do like the fight between Julius and Jason. They wanted it to be at Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted zombies. They wanted Jason fighting other zombies. No, listen, hear me out.
Oh God.
In the original draft, they wanted him to fight other zombies in Times Square. And I thought, oh my gosh, gritty New York. And there would be other zombies just walking around. And think about it. Okay, if you like to think deeper on things, in New York City, you don't get a lot of people like doing direct eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
I read about that too because I've visited New York twice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a true thing. Nobody really looks at each other. And I was thinking, how funny would that be if there are like actual zombies walking around? People aren't paying attention because nobody looks at anything. And
Oh jeez.
no, I want that movie. I want that movie.
Well, we can. Well, now that he's been in space, we could probably get that now. But oof, that was rough. And if it's $5 million, there's no way you're getting that at Madison Square Garden thing, because that would cost
Yeah.
that plus a lot, especially in the '80s with MSG and how big that was. Let's write our own script where Jason returns to Vancouver or New York City or wherever it is, and he is fighting zombies.
You know, he could seriously open up a can on other
Oh,
zombies. You know
absolutely.
he could.
Especially if it was Kane's version. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, Kane brings the intensity. Not saying that, like, Richard Brooker or Ted White didn't, but there's a difference between Kane. Kane's Jason is pissed off. And
He
he's
is.
always angry. And that's what I like about Kane. So I think he could definitely take down a handful of zombies or two. And then just go about his merry way again, looking for the next team to take out. Again, a lot of people don't understand, or they're just so frustrated because he gets hit with the toxic waste. Oh, and then he again, his mask is off and he's walking around looking like the Toxic Avenger down in the sewers. Of course, it's 1988 New York. They just all the sewers happen to fill up with toxic waste just to clean everything out. Why not? Because America in the 80s. And they have, they're on the ladder, and Jason talks and says, please, mommy, don't make me drown. I think that's in Rennie's head. He
Yeah, it
vomits up
is.
all the water. People don't realize that. And then they see little Jason laying there. I don't really think it's that hard to realize, no, Jason did not mutate back into a little boy. You know
Do
what I mean?
people really think that though, Eric?
Yes.
No.
Yes. I've had so many, because I get it. I'm not a big fan of the ending myself. That's one part I really can't defend. And even Kane hates it. The director hated it, but it is what it is. But there are people who are like, I just don't get it. So what? The toxic waste hit him and he's a little boy? Listen, Rennie has been seeing hallucinations of young Jason, whether he's coming out of the window and grabbing her, or he's just standing there. Put two and two together. Jason, air quotes, is now dead. He's washed away with the toxic waste. That's her and her trauma being finished. There is no more little Jason. It's not that hard to figure out.
We don't know how many times her uncle had her out on the boat and just kept drilling it in her head about
Right.
Jason. So that's why it's linked to her trauma with him tossing her into the lake, is because he just, probably kept saying this every time she was there.
And if they're on the lake, obviously, she's heard the stories. You know what I mean? You don't go to Camp Crystal Lake or Crystal Lake in general without knowing the stories. Everybody knew the stories, not just Crazy Ralph. Everybody in the diner knew the stories. This person knew the story, that person, the homeless guy, hanging out in the road in part 3, he knew the stories. Everybody did. So she did as well. So she also has this little boogeyman, or this little ghost story in the back of her head. And now the fact that she was thrown in the water by someone she loved,
Yeah.
told that the little Voorhees boy is going to get you, whether she saw him or not, that's still in her mind. So she's got all that. And then you got the toxic waste washing away her trauma. I don't think it was that difficult to realize that that's just in her mind, that all that's happening. Jason did not talk. He doesn't have the vocal cords anymore. You know what I
No.
mean? Especially after the toxic waste, because it just goes all the way on him. Like Kane is just covered with that water and that waste. So there's no way he's talking. Or because if you remember, he gets toxic waste thrown on his face to begin with, and he can scream a little bit, and I kind of like that he could scream. He's showing a little bit of pain. It's something different. And then it's a trope. And you know me, Barb, I'm a sucker for tropes. I love how he picks up the fist and he just kind of clenches it. It's like, it's one of those damn you moments, when he's so pissed that, he gets toxic waste in his face. And then he's walking around like a drunk baby, looking for them down the hallway. It's just one of those fun moments. I'm just like, okay. And now I know we got toxic waste clearing up the sewers. I can't wait to see where this goes. It's a little disappointing, but you know what? What else could they do for this film?
I will accept a lot of things in the horror
Yeah,
world, you will
yeah,
find.
yeah.
I can suspend disbelief quite a bit.
You sit down and watch this movie, you realize Jason can swim. Toxic waste fills up the sewers at night, every night at midnight. It's really easily to believe this stuff.
And we never got to see Jason walking around with just bones. Okay, here's another idea. We haven't seen him walk around with just bones, just clothing hanging off of his bones. There's more we could do here.
You want a skeleton Jason is what you want.
I want two more. I want one that's him fighting off other zombies in Times Square. And then I want this skeleton. Little We got room for more. There's always room for more.
Hey, you know what? Again, where this franchise has gone, I don't see why we couldn't. Again, like I said, you know, he survived so many things in part 4. He's been resurrected like the Frankenstein monster. He's fought Carrie from the Stephen King universe. You know, he's gone to Manhattan. He's gone to hell. He's gone to space. He's been rebooted. He's fought Freddy Krueger. Nothing is implausible when it comes to this guy. So coming soon, we will see Jason that takes on zombies at Madison Square Garden. And then we're going to somehow get like a skeleton warrior Jason, you know, coming this Halloween, maybe.
Yeah, Eric, we need to write this screenplay. Somebody's got to do it. It might as well be us.
Yeah, I guess. Why not?
All right, we will see you next time on Fear the Talking Heads.
Cheers.